Episode 110 of the Interpretation Station is called to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the Interpretation Station. And we've got a real treat for you today, a real treat. Because today we have an episode for the Interpretation Station's Lusophone followers. Oh yes, it's been a while. We haven't had one of these since about May or April of 2021. What are we, 2022 now? Because we have with us today, you may recognize his cherubic features. We have Mr. Brandon Molt joining us, and we are going to do a joint episode today. Brandon, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, doing very well. Thank you, Roland. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. Long time no see.
Yeah.
How do we say that in Portuguese?
Há muito tempo que nós não nos vemos.
Muito tempo que não nos vemos. How's that?
Good enough.
Good enough, good enough. So Brandon's been pretty damn busy the last few months, working away, doing exams. He's just recently done the UN freelance exam. He made it into the second round. This is for French. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Feeling confident, Brandon?
Yeah, I am. I hope the results come as soon as possible.
Cool. Well, from what I know of Brandon, certainly with his Portuguese, he's a pretty damn cool customer. So I'm crossing my fingers for Brandon, hoping that you've passed. Now, Brandon, he contacted me, said I'd like to do a new episode for the Interpretation Station. So I naturally was delighted to have him back. So what we've got for you, Lusophone speakers today, is, well, in fact, I'll let Brandon do the introduction of the statement that we're going to be doing. Brandon, tell the viewers what you've got what we have in store for them today.
Great, thanks, Roland. So today we are doing a speech from the Cplp, which is a great source of speeches if you are working on your Portuguese C. We're going to be doing a speech given by he's now former ambassador, former executive secretary, Francisco Ribeiro Teles. And this was given at the 20th meeting of Cplp defense ministers. So there's a lot of, not technical, but there is defense related vocabulary in this, which I think is great. And the second advantage to the speech, which is why I wanted to do it, is because speeches given by the Cplp are generally quite Portuguese. It's quite obvious saying that, but you'll find that the speeches are very flowery, and those are the kind of speeches that are very hard for an English A to do, or an English B as well. So
is the gentleman, is he Portuguese?
He is indeed Portuguese.
He is Portuguese, okay. And this was what year?
This was given last year.
2021, I see, I get you. Okay. So what we're going to do, so I am going to leave, so as usual with the Interpretation Station, I am going to leave in the description box, I will be leaving you links to the audio of the speech and to this transcript that you see up on the screen, the sort of hard copy. My advice to you is, before you watch the rest of the episode, is to go and follow the link to the audio. Try it yourself. Try the statement yourself. Record yourself. See how you do. And then come back, print off the hard copy, and watch me and Brandon give our commentary on it. See what you've done well, see what you haven't done so well. We're going to be looking for sort of lots of synonyms, lots of different approaches as we go through this. And yeah, so that's how I would advise you to do it. You'll see that Brandon's going to be going through it, like giving a sort of sight translation as if he were interpreting, okay? So as if you were interpreting, and we're going to be stopping at various points, discussing the interesting vocab, and let us see what we can learn. Okay, so Brandon, so I suggest you get started now, and we'll just go paragraph sort of by paragraph, and over to you.
Great. So just a note, the recording that we're going to make available to you is one that I recorded myself doing in Portuguese, because the original wasn't available online, unfortunately. But the advantage to that is that being not a native speaker, I've taken my time to pronounce everything nice and clearly for you. So I'm sure that will help things a lot. In the original speech, he does all these greetings. I'm going to leave that out because in my recording, I didn't do all of that. So we're just going to start here.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, when we held our last ministerial meeting in Luanda in May 2019, we could never have imagined that the 20th meeting of Ministers of Defense of the CPLP would take place in the context and in the format as it is taking place in today.
Okay, so you've highlighted something there. Estávamos longe, if I'll let you do the pronunciation,
Okay, thanks.
tell us why you've
I'll do
highlighted that bit.
Estávamos longe
best,
de imaginar. Here you could have gone with, we were far away from imagining that the 20th meeting, and that would be very, you would have been a bit too close to the speaker, in my opinion. So you can take a step back, be a bit more natural, and describe it to a friend. Oh, we could never have imagined that, that would be taking place in these circumstances. And that already just sounds a lot more natural, a lot nicer.
Yeah, we could never have imagined. That sounds nice. And also what you said there, just accidentally in the circumstances.
Yeah, correct.
For no contexto, in no formato, there's another sort of word you can use rather than just in the context and in the format that it's in today. So yeah, in the circumstances, whatever. If you were in a real hurry, I think you could almost just say in the circumstances without having to necessarily give both those nouns, context and format. But,
definitely.
Okay, go on.
Okay, against this challenging and complex backdrop, the CPLP is aimed to strengthen its contribution as a unique forum for multilateral cooperation, serving the development of its member states.
Okay, let's just have a couple of things here, yeah.
So quadro in Portuguese is a painting, not only, but it can be a painting. And I thought that was a great opportunity to be creative and to use the term that I love, which is backdrop.
Backdrop, you like backdrops?
Yeah.
Okay. And now I'm presuming that quadro is like the sort of analogous word, like in cadre for French.
Same, correct.
Am I right? Yeah. I mean, all I would say here is that I tend to always just play safe with cadre. I tend to go with context. So yeah, backdrop. If you're feeling, again, confident, if you're feeling cool, calm, whatever. If I'm feeling a little bit nervous, I'll just, if I hear in French cadre or in Spanish marco, I'll just go with context.
Okay.
Again, it just depends how you're feeling in that moment. And I like what you used, the challenging and complex backdrop. Again, there I would say that if you're in a hurry, if you're nervous, you know it's going to be a long statement, and if you don't have that text, there's an argument to be made for just dropping one of those adjectives. I think they're pretty much what we call in English a tautology. They mean the same thing, basically. Difficult and complex. I mean, they're identical. So there's an argument there for just dropping one of those if needs be.
Great.
Now, this other thing, tell me why you've highlighted forum privilegiado. Privilegiado?
Yeah, privilegiado. So
the je, right.
Yeah, so this is the same as in French, privilégié. And you always want to say privileged, but it's just not a good idea.
And he uses it a couple of times here. He uses it a bit later on as well.
Does. And that could be a problem, which we'll see later. But at least for the first time, I'm happy to go with unique. Unique
format. It's a nice way of doing it, yes. One thing that occurred to me, now it's maybe a bit slightly more colloquial, I was thinking of as the go-to forum for multilateral cooperation.
I like that.
Could be, you like that, yeah?
Yeah.
I think that's the sort of thing we might say in English, sort of very business-like. It's a bit, as I say, slight registered down, but I think it could work nicely.
I think
again,
so.
across the Romance languages.
Great. Let's
move on. Go on.
We want to align ourselves with the global efforts to mitigate the pandemic via facilitating and participating in platforms and debate fora, via sharing information and experiences with our member states, with international partners, and with civil society organizations.
Okay, I would just say here, it's not been highlighted, this the portilla de informaciones y experiencias. Yes. I tend to talk about, knowledge sharing, and I often say that the two things that often go together in a package are knowledge sharing, best practices. Always remember those two sort of buzz phrases in a package, but knowledge sharing, I'll often talk about.
Knowledge sharing, that's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. See, this is what we're going to discuss today as well. I haven't made a note here, but he hasn't introduced this in a very natural, what I'm trying to say is that he hasn't said gostaria também de ressaltar que a cooperação no setor da defesa, he just goes, também a cooperação no setor da defesa constitui.
Right, it's very sort of very chatty. Is it sort of very
Yes.
chatty form?
Yes.
Right.
But we'll see a better example later. So let's just get into it. Cooperation in the defense sector is also a unique or go-to place.
Here we go again with this privilegiado. Yeah, go on.
To find responses to security challenges such as terrorism and religious fundamentalism, which have already made headway into the CPLP space. I'm referring to the situation.
Let's stop there. Let's stop there because this is actually a very long. I mean, this whole paragraph
this is a very long
one sentence actually. So here you need to be looking at those moments when you can basically close off a sentence. I mean, I'm just thinking here.
Correct.
When he adds this, and I would refer to the situation. I mean, just you want to sort of just block that off with a full stop in theory. So let's just talk about. So we've got privilegiado again here. Tell me what. So yeah, this is actually the word the word you put here is what the word I usually go for when I hear privilegiado.
Yeah, I think preferred is. I think I got preferred from you as well.
Possibly, yeah, preferred. That's my sort of that's my go-to word. Like, if nothing else, that's at least that word always springs to mind. Preferred.
Okay.
And so so unique or preferred. See here, if you were to say it's the go-to means, that doesn't quite sound as good as it did in the previous context.
Correct.
When it's talking about something sort of concrete, a go-to forum, the go-to strategy, the go-to guy. Means is a bit more philosophical, more abstract. Abstract, that's the word I'm looking for. So here, maybe the preferred means. You could just maybe say the best way. It's just the best way of finding. Sometimes, you don't know. Sometimes we have a tendency to overcomplicate it. When in English, we would just say it's the best way of finding responses.
And I think a great way to get yourself thinking like that is to pretend as if you are interpreting for a friend right next to you. I would have come up with that if I were doing that. I would say, it's the best way to deal with these problems.
Best way, yeah. That's it. Don't overcomplicate when you don't have to.
Yeah.
Go on then. So,
I'm referring to the situation in the north of Mozambique, on which note I would like to express our solidarity to His Excellency, the Minister of Defense of Mozambique. Full stop.
Okay. I was actually, so I said before I would put the full stop after the CPLP. Okay. It occurs to me also here, whenever you hear like in pelo que, again, in Spanish, para que, those are sort of signals that maybe you can end a sentence there. Because again, here, so I refer to the situation here in the north of Mozambique. Now here, I would like to state our solidarity with. So again, whenever you hear these things, in English, we say on which note, in which regard, those are actually kind of moments when you can sort of start a new sentence and break up these longer sentences. So it's a matter of just feeling what the right moment is to end an old sentence and start a new one. And then, so you've also...
Can we just stop there?
Explain a couple of the other things.
I just want to go back. I want to highlight pelo que because for me at least, if I heard this in a speech, I would be a bit tripped up. And so I've made a note right at the bottom here. I hope everyone can see this.
Okay, look at that.
I've got some synonyms here in Portuguese, and I found this on the Cbrdovidas website, which I would recommend. So here are the synonyms. You could say logo, assim, portanto, por isso, por conseguinte. And we have a sentence here in Portuguese to highlight what pelo que actually is referring to. So let's go with it. So it goes, o comboio está atrasado, pelo que ainda podes ir à tabacaria se quiseres comprar uma revista. So the train is late. So if you still want to, you can go and get a magazine at the tobacconist or the paper shop, whatever it is. And so here it explains that pelo que means o motivo pelo qual, the reason why. This is the reason why you can go and do something.
Which is why,
Yes, correct, exactly. So I just went with on which note in this case because I thought it was contextually appropriate, but it's not the strict translation of pelo que.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you want to break the sentence up, you can and still have that connotation. You can say, on that note, I would like to take the opportunity, for example.
Exactly.
Okay. Now you've just explained what else you've noted there.
Yeah, I highlighted this because I thought it wasn't necessary to include. Just to explain it, when they say eu queria manifestar na pessoa de Sua Excelência o Ministro da Defesa, I think for me at least, they are just giving us the direction of their remarks. So they're saying, I'm now going to refer to His Excellency the Minister of Defense. But we would never say, I would like to, show to the person of His Excellency. It just doesn't make any sense at all. It's just something not to translate literally or in the moment. I would rather omit it.
Is that a particularly Portuguese thing? Because I don't think they have. Or perso, is that so? Like in French, I'm thinking, or personne. Is that like the?
I've never heard it in any other language.
Right, that's a particularly sort of little Portuguese.
Correct.
Yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Idiosyncrasy, shall we say? Okay. Go on then. Carry on.
Okay. So we expressing our solidarity and our willingness to work with the Mozambican authorities. I didn't highlight this, but I want to highlight it now. Para com. This always makes no sense to me. But para com just means towards, with. I don't know why they say para com, which is like for with. It just doesn't make sense. But just be prepared for this kind of construction. So solidarity and a willingness to work with the Mozambican authorities.
That's right. So it's interesting what Brandon's done there. He's thrown in to work with disponibilidad. Because I'm pronouncing the Spanish way, but anyway, it's the same idea. Because in English it sounds a bit strange. You say express our willingness. Our willingness to the Mozambique authorities. Like in English, you want to hear willingness to do what? To do something, okay? And so Brandon, to make that sort of sound more natural in English, has just thrown in that willingness to work with the Mozambique authorities. So again, sometimes when you go into English, you have to sometimes add. Often usually as interpreters, we're trying to cut things down, but every now and then you have to add something. So this is a good example of where you have to just add something to make it sound nicer.
Yeah. And so we're referring to other threats such as piracy, international crime, different types of trafficking, pollution, lixo marinho, I would say. Can you say marine rubbish? That doesn't sound right.
Marine waste.
Pollution. Yeah.
Waste,
marine waste.
Marine pollution and waste.
Okay, great. Climate change, natural disasters, which have affected our member states in a significant manner. And then he says, como foi aqui referido, I would admit that. I don't think it's necessary. He's just saying, we've already said this.
Yeah. When you say in a significant manner, just say significantly.
Significantly.
Which have significantly affected our member states.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
This is also why the contribution of the defense sector is particularly, okay, we've got two options here, but you could drop one if you're under pressure, as you said, but we would go with particularly relevant particularly relevant and timely. Yeah. When it comes to responding to disasters, coming to responding to disasters, which this meeting will discuss.
Now, the one thing I'd like to just point out here is I noticed you skipped, you actually you said that's why the contribution of the defense sector is particularly relevant and timely. Now, again, that's okay if you've got the text in front of you,
yes.
Or again, if you're feeling calm and you feel you can leave those adjectives to the end as is more natural in English. But how would you do that if you were right behind the speaker? What's the other sort of approach that you could adopt here? So you've just heard particularmente conveniente y opportuno, and you want to get that out. You want to get that out of the way. How are you going to do that?
I would go something else which is relevant and timely is the defense sector's contribution.
Something like that. Even more simply than that, they're just what? What's relevant and timely is.
Oh, yeah.
This is classic in Russian. See, in Russian, we do this all the time. That is like typical word order in Russian, where you hear the adjectives first, and then you find out what it is that are those adjectives. So that is a device we use all the time in Russian.
Okay.
What's particularly relevant and timely is the contribution of the defense sector in responding to disasters.
That's a great strategy. Yeah, I like that a lot. All right. Okay, so here we're going to have to rearrange this. So let's do it just do it the wrong way first, and then we can see why we need to rearrange it. So this topic has benefited from the greatest attention of the 25th meeting of the Council of Ministers of the CPLP. I just find that is not natural at all.
That sounds a bit. This topic merits the greater attention. Yeah.
It's very Portuguese. That's flowery. You know, you got to change it.
Yeah.
So I would actually wait, and I would keep that in my mind. He's mentioned the topic, and he's mentioned attention. Okay, those are two important. I would start when he goes. The 25th meeting of the CPLP Council of Ministers discussed in depth this topic.
Okay. Yeah. That again, you're leaving a lot. That's my only fear there is you're leaving that big chunk in green. There is a lot of it. So I agree with trying to change the wording, as you suggested. Though, if you just mechanically sort of just change word for word into English, it sounds a bit very clunky. But you would perhaps want to say this was a big talking point, for example.
Okay, that's a great one.
This was a hot button topic at the 25th. So yeah, do change the wording if he feels clunky. But I'd be very hesitant to leave such a big chunk. Till later.
That makes lots of sense. Okay. And this meeting was held
there's other little tweaks. This theme was in the spotlight at the 25th meeting. You know, just have all those little variations on, say, describe how something is a big issue. You know.
Yes. Great. Okay, so this meeting was held in December 2020, and it approved a resolution. The resolution was on strengthening cooperation in emergencies. And this takes
emergency situations. I think, you know, you could say emergencies, but emergency situations is also like a thing.
Okay.
You have like in Russia, there's the Ministry of Emergency Situations. So you can say, so yeah, if you're in a hurry to say emergencies, it's fine. But don't also, if you want to say emergency situations, that is also recognized as being sort of stock diplomatic parlance, if you like.
Right. And this resolution took into account the work done by the defense component, namely at the 18th and 19th meetings of ministers of defense.
Okay.
And I just put in the numbers here because I can never remember what Roman numerals are. Okay, so we're talking about a resolution which aims to provide a framework and enhance the coordinated use of various cooperation mechanisms in emergency situations. It aims also to strengthen multidisciplinary dialogue and to capitalize on different sectoral capacities of member states.
Okay, so I like how you split that up into two sentences, which is good. Now, there are a couple of things here. Okay, so enquadrar, just tell us about what you've put there.
So you could say frame, but it just doesn't sound as natural. I would prefer, you're going to have to say a few more words than you would like to, but I would say just provide a framework for, as a reflex, I would go with that.
I mean, I can imagine, that's it. So I think a lot of non-English speakers, when going, I've heard, like, if you speak good English, and then when they want to express that notion, they say to frame, and it's always, it sounds a bit odd to me, as a native English speaker. Now, a one-word solution I think could work here is to circumscribe. Okay. That circumscribe basically means to do precisely that, to provide like a framework. It circumscribes this area of activity. That is a one-word solution that I think could work.
Great.
The other thing I was going to say, just give me 1 second. Okay, capitalizar. I noticed you just gone with the cognate to capitalize on. So I think it's worth just noting a couple of synonyms here. I think, I like to draw on capacities. Okay, or harnessing various capacities. I think we tend to capitalize on opportunities more in English as a sort of the sort of main collocation. I think it works. It's okay here. It's okay, but I think to draw on to harness capacities.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Over time, various initiatives in terms of cooperation. Sorry, that was incorrect. Over time, various cooperation initiatives in the defense area have contributed to cohesion between our countries. And I've highlighted cohésion here because the first time I heard it, I'd had no idea they were saying cohésion, because it sounds, at least in European Portuguese, it sounds more like cuisine. So just be prepared for that word. It might sound a bit strange to you. Okay.
Okay. Also talk about bolster. Maybe we can bolster cohesion is again maybe in English contributed to cohesion.
Yeah,
it's literally how it is. I think in English talk about bolstering cohesion, for example.
Yeah.
Cohesiveness. We also talk about cohesiveness. I think you can say either. Cohesion's easier to say, to be honest.
I think so.
But you might hear cohesiveness. So you Portuguese guys out there, you might hear coming from English speakers, you'll hear both cohesion and cohesiveness. So just be on the lookout.
Yeah. It also bolstered no, it doesn't work there. It also helped consolidate our community, whether that be in terms of military health, cooperation between navies, training via our defense college, or in terms of the interoperability of our armed forces, thanks to the Felino exercises.
Now, do tell us about the. Okay, tell us first about interoperability.
Okay, I just highlighted it because I always struggle to pronounce that in the heat of the moment.
Interoperability. It's one of those words, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those words you want to practice. Interoperability. That is a mouthful, isn't it? Yeah, that's a very good point.
And the Felino exercises.
Tell us about these.
Felino actually is what you're thinking. It is a cat, and
yes,
on the emblem, there's actually a picture of a cat, I think, with all the country's flags, which is quite funny. But why they named it after a cat, I don't know. But I do know that it is just a series of military exercises, specifically between Cplp countries, which have been going on for quite a while now. It's just something that they do. I think it's possibly because what they always say in their speeches is that the Cplp is linked by the sea. They're on different continents, but they're all linked by the sea. And they mention here Marinha, the Navy. I think it's quite an important aspect for them to focus on.
Okay, so you can call these in English the Felino exercises, right?
Yes.
They don't change the name when going into English. Okay.
No.
I must say I've never heard of that before. It's interesting to know. Okay.
Some of this action has contributed more directly to improving the visibility of our organization. Now, this is the case of the Felino exercises once again. For the first time, they have hosted...
I would just one thing I'd like to just say before you carry on.
Yeah.
Visibilidade, say it in Portuguese.
Visibilidade internacional.
Okay, so you get this again across the Romance languages, the visibility, the French word. They always talk about soulever or la visibilité. I tend to go with profile, profile, as opposed to visibility. Yes, I always think visibility sounds a bit odd in English, so I'll often talk about raising the profile of an organization, for example.
Okay, that's new for me. I like that. Thanks. Okay, so for the first time, they hosted international observers. Joint work has also been done with the goal to build capacity and exchange, what did you say, exchange knowledge?
Knowledge sharing.
Knowledge sharing, okay, and to engage in knowledge sharing in terms of...
Just what you missed, ainda a possibilidade de vir a ser. Did you...
I cut that out.
Okay. Why did you cut that out?
I thought it was very Portuguese. And there is also the possibility for joint work to be developed with the goal to, I think that's very clunky.
I see. Okay. And you sort of cut it out by saying, how, just could you just do it again?
How I did it.
Yeah.
For the first time, hosted international observers, and I would have actually preferred to use the word possibility because
That's what I
yeah.
was going to say. I think the possibility might be a valid thing to keep in.
Yes, and so there's also the possibility of us undertaking joint work
There you go.
with the goal of capacity building and knowledge sharing in terms of peacekeeping operations under the auspices of the UN, as proposed by Portugal. A bit long, but I think it's okay.
Yeah. I think all those sort of expressions you did well. Under the auspices, an alternative for that. Under the aegis, if you prefer.
Yeah.
In the field of peacekeeping, yeah, under the auspices of the UN, as proposed by Portugal. Or, I always think when you have a conforme, again, similar in Spanish, as per the proposal of Portugal, as an alternative, that as per can, just those two words can often in the Romance languages, that expression takes like 5 or 6 words to express it. That as per can often serve as a useful shortcut. As per the decision, as per Security Council resolution, blah blah. Okay, go on.
On the other hand, let me underline that besides the ongoing articulation with the SPAD, which is just for information's sake, the Permanent Secretariat for Defense Affairs.
Okay, I'll just stop you there for articulate. See, I don't like articulation.
I don't either.
In English,
but I often hear it, and this is something that we can discuss.
And you hear a lot in the Romance languages. So, do you have? Is there something you prefer? Is there another suggestion you can give me, or should I tell you?
It could be like one of the boring ones, like cooperation or coordination.
Coordination. So I always go with coordination. I
Okay.
always go with coordination, just to say, just so that it's not cooperation. I have, cooperation has its box, and then articulación, coordination. So if they talk about the two together, one's cooperation, the other one is coordination. So when they talk about anything in the Romance languages about articuler, articular, I tend to go with coordination.
Okay, that's great. So we're highlighting the ongoing coordination with SPAD, the excellent collaboration that we have pursued.
That's with collaboration. I tend to avoid generally collaboration.
Yeah.
Because that's a bit of a dirty word, isn't it?
It can be.
Makes you think of the Vichy regime and such like. So I tend with collaboration. I tend to go with cooperation.
Okay, let me put that in there. That's important.
That's a good way of just saying, articulation, coordination, collaboration, cooperation.
That's definitely something to learn off by heart. Okay, so excellent cooperation that we have pursued with the Center for Strategic Analysis, which I actually had the opportunity to visit, and I was hosted.
Right? No. Just the way you said it, I was going to say, "Oh, really? That's
nice."
a
compliment. Thank you. I'm being natural.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll keep that bit. That's quite funny.
Yeah, which I had the opportunity to visit, not me, but the speaker, and to be hosted by the current director and their team, whose dynamic work I commend.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say again, that last bit, whose dynamic work I commend. Again, that's an opportunity. I might sort of close the sentence off to meet the director. I was hosted by the director and his team. I want to commend them on their dynamic work. I guess it's for their sterling efforts.
Okay. Yeah.
For all their hard work. I mean, you can keep that. You can go with dynamic, but if you want something more English sounding, I like thanking people for their sterling efforts.
Okay.
Their sterling work.
Okay, great. Okay, once again, he's starting a sentence without any introduction. He's not saying queria referir que. He's just saying. In English, he'd basically be saying, like.
Then you've got
saying that the decision of the committee is this and that. Just takes you off guard, I would say, if you're in the booth.
Right. I mean, in English, would it be something like, And then you've got this. Then you've got the decision by the. Would that be the
Yes,
equivalent?
yes, I would say. So if I were interpreting this, I would really want to like soften that and just add, as you said, I would like to say that, let me see, where's he going? Okay, I'd also like to mention the decision.
So you can do that's again, you're adding here. If you find it easier in this sort of context, just to throw those words in to make, because it gives the sentence a bit more structure when you've got it like that than you would if you were just trying to completely imitate the original of going. And then you've got, so I think you can do either or.
Okay.
I know what you mean. I find sometimes easier if I've got that if you just start with, I also want to refer to, it just gives the whole sentence a bit more structure. So again, I think it's a judgment. It's up, you've got to make a judgment call how you want to approach it.
Okay. And just a note to everyone, this paragraph is also only one sentence.
Well, that is a long one, isn't it?
We're going to have to break it up a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go for it. I would also like to refer to the decision of the ongoing consultation. No.
Okay, so again, when I hear concertation, so I go in French and in Spanish, I go dialogue.
Dialogue. Yeah.
Dialogue, yeah.
I like that. The decision
and
of
often with permanent, what were you going to say? What would you call this thing?
I would call it the ongoing dialogue committee.
Okay, so often with permanente, you'll go to standing. Standing committees. So this might be the standing dialogue committee. Not always, but it's a good, if you can, like, if you were doing an exam and you talk about a standing committee, I reckon the examiner would think, oh, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Okay, so the decision of the standing dialogue committee, this is their decision to finance. Okay, so now we've got, he's breaking up the ideas. So their decision for funding. This will be done via a special CPLP fund. Also, it will include Brazil's financial contribution. There will be a project to create, this is weird, o projeto de criação do espaço Cplp nas instalações do centro. I don't really know how to do this, but I'm going to just go with it. There's also the project to create the CPLP space in the center's facilities. Now, what threw me off there was all the capital letters.
That's a good word to go for installation. Well, for instalations, facilities. That is certainly what I would go for in French and Spanish. That's what it's a project to create a CPLP space within the center's facilities.
So it must be the name of a project. That's what threw me off. All these capital letters.
Yeah,
but it must be.
Yeah, the capitals. It must be a project.
Must be a name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I wonder, with some of these things, it might be worth looking up on the website to see if if the English version, maybe they have their the equivalent. But even it sounds weird. The CPLP space creation project.
Yeah. Okay.
I take it means space, as in not talking about outer space, but just sort of space, right?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay, and the executive secretariat has taken part in a reflection group promoted by the CAE, and that focused on possibilities of cooperating with associated observers.
I'll just say this is Grupo de how do you just pronounce that for me, please?
Grupo de Reflexão.
Okay, so a reflection group, I don't think we'd say that in English. So I've heard a think tank used.
Yeah, that's great.
Groupe de réflexion, you hear that. If you're really saying, say a working group, a task force, but I think the think tank gets the think, at least has that element of the réflexion.
Yeah. Okay. The final sentence, and then also I'm not sure how to use reciproca in this, but the mutual participation in seminaries and other common interest events.
I think reciprocal participation is okay. Mutual participation. I think reciprocal works. That's fine. Seminar. I would often with seminars. I tend to say workshops.
Workshops.
Seminar Yeah, workshops. Seminars can also work, but often I think we in English, certainly the UN, they like holding workshops. I mean, the interpretation station likes holding workshops. Don't forget, if any of you Lucophones out there, you speak Arabic, Sunday, okay? First ever Arabic interpretation station Sunday at 6 workshop. If any of you speak Arabic. So look, the interpretation station uses workshops, so I like workshops.
Yeah, okay. I think we're almost finished on probably the second last page, but once again, we need to add something here, in my opinion. So I would just say, I would like to refer finally to, in terms of promoting or in terms of boosting the defense sector, that is the willingness of the executive secretariat to allow for, to provide the use of the CPLP portal to display information on cooperation or defense cooperation. Okay, that was a bit, I didn't like the way I did that.
Tricky paragraph. Again, it's quite a long sentence. Okay, just go to the end and then we'll break it up.
To display information on defense cooperation. The goal of this is to help disseminate what we have been doing, the important work that we have been doing.
Okay. Okay, dynamisation. So you said promoting, boosting the defense component. A couple of other words that maybe are slightly higher register that I often think of together, but are also really good and really strong, are galvanizing and energizing.
Okay.
If you don't always want to be promoting, I mean, yeah, there's a tendency with doing these kinds of things. You do a lot of promoting this, promoting that. So it's just to, again, just to expand, just for you to see where you can use these English words in what sort of context. So often when I hear this, again, in French, it's dynamiser.
Yeah.
They use that a lot. So it's just to give you something different, to galvanize, to energize. Okay. The willingness of to facultar, you said to provide or to allow, to enable. Perhaps, would also be good. Alojar information. Okay, so why have you highlighted alojar?
Alojar, yeah.
Alojar.
Because my brain would normally firstly go to the word like host or provide a space for. But I think on your website you display information, so why not
post? Can you put? Would it be to post?
Yeah,
with a P. I mean, I'm just saying, display information is good. I'm just That seems good to me. In the field, in materia, in the field of defense, for example, and that procurando. So I said this again. If you happen to catch me at the TERP summit last week, I did a presentation there talking about marking texts up, and I focused very much on the Spanish and those sort of moments in Spanish, those indicators when you can break up an old sentence, start a new sentence. And one of the sort of big giveaways is when you hear like a participle like this, a present participle, procurando de esa forma. That's like, okay, you could say in the field of cooperation, and this so as to contribute to disseminating the important work carried out. So often when you hear that sort of ando in whatever Romance language it may be, that's often an opportunity just to sort of start a new sentence. This with a view to helping disseminate. Contribuir, if you're struggling to say, sometimes you like contribute, you might want to just say to help as a sort of shortcut. I mean, he's contributing a lot, I think, in this text, isn't he? He uses that word a lot. So sometimes it can just be this to help disseminate the important work carried out. And I like, disseminate. So and also for that word, if you would please just pronounce it.
Divulgação.
Divulgação. So that's I will 99 times out of 10 I'll talk about disseminating.
Okay.
I tend to find that works best.
Right.
Okay.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is true that the pandemic has restricted our work, but we cannot deny that the CPLP and its member states have shown the necessary resilience to make progress, or to make significant progress.
It's interesting what you did there. I take it that set is that like while it's true that?
Well, if actually, but what he means is while,
Yeah, so like in French, like because like in
Exactly.
French when they start see, it's like it's telling the meaning, telling the while from the if apart, because often in French they'll use it as a while. But again, if you start with a while, it means it's going to be a sort of slightly longer sentence. If you said while, the listener is expecting, okay, while this is good, well, such and such is a good thing. The listener knows, because you said that while, that there's going to be a second part to that sentence, okay? Yeah. And if you miss the second part of that sentence, it kind of fucks the whole sentence up. So what Brandon did very well there, he didn't actually put in the while. He said, okay, it's true that the pandemic has affected our work, full stop. And then he threw in a but it's no less true. And that way, again, if you do fuck up the second half of that sentence, okay, you've lost that half, but at least you've got that first chunk. It's true that the pandemic has affected our work. At least you get 50% of the message over. Whereas if you go in with a while and you start it and then you get the second half wrong, you kind of fuck up the whole sentence. So at least this way, you've got half of it, and then you start the second half with the but, which it's the same meaning. It's the same meaning as if you'd gone with a while.
It is. It's much safer.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the CPLP will soon celebrate its 25th anniversary. This will take place on the 17th of July. That was when we will be holding the 13th Conference of Heads of State and Government in Luanda. That will be the start of the Angolan presidency for the period 2021-2023.
Okay. I don't think there's anything there. I think that's all fairly straightforward.
I would like, so this is backwards, but he goes, in terms of the agenda for the summit, I would like to highlight 3 aspects.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said 3. I would normally never say the number. I would normally just like to say, I would just highlight some aspects, because you never know. If he might forget the third one, and then looks like you've in the booth have forgotten the third one. So I would be very careful with that. I never say a number.
I'd never thought of that. I'd never thought of that. To play safe. Okay, it's interesting. It's an interesting idea.
If you have the text,
I don't know. I don't know what I think about it yet, because maybe he wants to specifically say a number of us. Yeah, I can see how it might make sense. Yeah, I think with a smaller number like 3, I think you're on fairly safe ground. Maybe if there's like more, then there's a chance of getting lost. It's an interesting. I don't know quite what to think of it.
Okay, I'll give you time to process, and then you can get back to us.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first point I want to make, the first point is on an inter-community level. It refers to the agreement on CPLP mobility. This aims to facilitate the movement of people based on a flexible, gradual, and variable model. It will.
So you said the free. What did you say? The free. Just go up a little bit. What did you say for circulation?
Movement.
Yeah, I think that's good, isn't it? Free, because you often talk about free movement, at least in the European Union, free movement of goods and people. So I think that's it's maybe a bit better than actually just saying circulation.
I think so.
Good. I like that. Yeah. I don't think circulation would be a disaster if you said it, but I think movement sounds better.
Great. And this will allow member states to choose how. This will allow the member states to choose what kinds of mobility they want, ones that are more aligned with their internal reality.
I like how you said that, most aligned with their internal reality. That's very nice.
Great. And without distracting from the ongoing efforts to enhance cooperation in the sector.
Okay. Ongoing is good for ongoing efforts to enhance cooperation. Yeah, that's very good. Sem this without, let's see.
I want to just look at desvinculação. Desvinculação is uncoupling, decoupling. It just would not be appropriate to say that in this context. Without decoupling from the efforts to do this and that. And I thought that if something is being decoupled, you're being distracted from it, you're not paying attention anymore. That's why I went without distracting from. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I think there's also a case to be made for in English, rather than going for the negative perspective on that, to sort of highlight the positive, keeping it consistent with ongoing efforts to enhance cooperation. Sometimes with these things, I get the impression that in English, we're a bit more optimistic. Like the romance, there's a slight negative connotation. They'll talk about without weakening it. Whereas in English, the idea is of like further strengthening it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think, that if you're, because again, you might be like trying to focus on exactly, okay, getting that exact same imagery. Whereas in English, it might just come to us more naturally just to say, that's keeping it consistent with our ongoing efforts to enhance cooperation. But again, I think it's good to have both those possibilities in mind at any rate.
Great. Okay, moving on.
Or maybe what else do we do with efforts that's negative without undermining? Often with efforts, in a negative context, we undermine efforts, undercutting efforts. So those are good words again to talk that collocations that go with effort in a negative sense.
Okay. This agreement will surely contribute to the emergence of the Cplp as a community of people. I wasn't entirely sure about going with emergence here, but I wouldn't have been happy going with affirmation in any case.
The consolidation?
Consolidation? Okay.
Maybe.
Strengthening its sense of belonging, or strengthening, sorry, he's referring to the community of persons. So strengthening their feeling of belonging to the organization.
Yeah. We talk about that in English, a feeling of belonging, the sense of belonging.
Sense of belonging, yeah. I would have gone with sense of belonging. And at the same time, this will benefit areas such as academic and scientific mobility, business cooperation, tourism, among others. Okay, secondly, I will refer to the, so secondly, that el plano externo is not necessary, I don't think, because he's going to say that he's going to make his point anyway. So secondly, I'm referring to the international profile that Cplp has achieved or built. And this can be seen in the 14 applications from countries and international organizations. They have applied to be associated observers. The vast majority of them have already been studied. So
I'll just stop you there. I would be hesitant of doing anything fancy with candidaturas. I think you can just say, so in UN, they're always called candidatures whenever countries are standing for election. Whenever at the UN, whenever they're standing to be elected to bodies, the Human Rights Council, Security Council, there was about candidatures.
Wow.
Whereas again, you're more likely to hear on the news in the UK or whatever, in the newspapers, talk about candidacy, someone's candidacy for president. So it's just a little weird nuance at the UN. I think here you could say either candidature or candidacy. One or the other is fine. I wouldn't go to the length of playing around with it more than that. I don't think you need to talk about applications. Just keep it simple.
And I highlighted instruidas here because it doesn't mean that the candidacies are like approved yet. It means that they have been looked at in depth and there's no decision. I thought that's just an important nuance as well.
Are under consideration.
Under consideration, or have been considered because it's in the past tense.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I just want to highlight this. I think you're supposed to say Côte d'Ivoire in any language.
Yeah, it's a good thing to highlight. Exactly. Technically, the constitutional name, even in English, is Côte d'Ivoire. So, yeah.
So
as opposed to, you might be tempted to say the Ivory Coast. I mean, no one's going to hold it against you, but technically the name you want to be going for is Côte d'Ivoire.
Yeah. So you may hear
also similarly, also with relevance to Lusophones, again, what we used to call Cape Verde. That's a Lusophone country, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were told a few years ago you meant to say Cabo Verde.
Okay. And I was just going to say, so in Portuguese, then you might hear Costa de Marfim, which is literally the coast of Ivory, or you may hear en Côte d'Ivoire.
Okay, so they'll use both. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got all these countries. I don't need to go into that.
Yeah, no.
This situation attests to the growing interest in CPLP activities by the international community.
Okay, I like, yeah, attests to. What else could we say?
I've got illustrates. I've got
Illustrates,
reflects.
nice. Yeah. Demonstrates, reflects, all those. Yeah.
Okay, and then from the Luanda summit onwards, the CPLP will have nearly 30 associated observers, while there were just 6 in 2014. This is a significant source of, no, I'm complicating things a bit. This is real potential for cooperation, but it is also a challenge when it comes to establishing partnerships which create tangible, oh man, added value. There we go. Which create
added value.
tangible added value, which are mutually beneficial. And this is.
Let's just stop there. Let's just break a couple of things down there. Just one word I want to just highlight: this concrétisation. Okay. So again, in the Romance, you come across this to concrétiser in French, and again, there's the initial knee-jerk reaction is to concretize. Oh, that sounds horrible, horrible in English, and it's one of those things. It's bothered me for a long time, and then I was reading. I was doing my episode on the Charter, right? And there's an expression they use in the Charter quite a lot, which is to give effect to something. And I got to admit, I quite like that as a solution for that, as a challenge, but also a challenge in giving effect to these partnerships. So that's just I like to give effect to something. I think it works quite well in that. When you have like a transitive verb, that there's this object, the partnership. What do you do? Yeah, okay. Give effect to them.
Oh, great. In the final,
they talk about sorry, I'll just like in the Charter they talk about it's all about giving effect to agreements. It's just to stop, okay, you could say implement. It's a challenge in implementing partnerships. It just sounds so naff. Somehow give effect to I think sounds better.
Okay, great. So final sentence there, which we're trying to build with by defining new terms of relationship with our partners. For me, modalidade always poses a problem. Because
depending on the context, at the UN, I'm fine with going with modalities. They
really?
talk about modalities a lot. Yeah.
Okay. But if you don't have
speaking at the UN, I mean, there's other organizations have their different jargon, I guess, but certainly at the UN, they like modalities.
Yeah, but if it's a private market, then I would stay far away from that.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, from the private market. Yeah, again, depending on the context. So yeah, depends on the context that you're working in sometimes.
Yeah. It refers to the way things are going to be done. So I mean, if you find a way to put that nice in English, then I think it's okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think in English we talk about working relationships, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Okay, these are the final 2 paragraphs. The third issue has to do with the economic component, the economic and business component of the work of our organization, which Angola will take up as the focus of its presidency.
Okay, I saw this word here, consacration. The standard go-to for me for that, again in French you got consacrer, consagrar in Spanish. It's enshrine. Okay, to do with enshrining an economic and business component. It's a versatile word.
Yeah.
Maybe if I sat here for a while, I could probably maybe think of something better. But it really means like to formalize something, to making something official, and enshrine gets that. That's the best. If nothing else comes to mind for consagrar or whatever, consacré, go with enshrine, and it'll almost always work one way or another.
Yeah.
As also, so, and then, okay, Vitor Central, you said, what was it, the focus?
The focus.
Yeah, you talk about central, if you want to just get the idea of the Vitor, maybe the central pillar. They often talk about pillars of, various programs, various initiatives, a pillar. But focus is good, yeah.
I just wanted to simplify it.
No, that's good, it's good, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. To conclude, Your Excellencies, my wish is that the 20th meeting of the Defense Ministers helps us to make progress in consolidating consolidating cooperation in the important defense component of our community. Thank you very much.
Okay, again, that's an expression. Yeah, I like how you've done that. Formulando votos. Again, in Spanish, you've got hacer votos. It just basically means, yeah, we want.
Yeah.
But it gets a bit, if you say we want here, in conclusion, we want, and then you get the, then you got to change the syntax. We want the 20th meeting to enable progress towards consolidating. As the way you've done it there is nice. It makes the syntax flow a bit more smoothly. My wish is that the 20th meeting. Also, I trust sometimes when they say in Spanish, hacer votos, I trust that.
Yeah, that's a very nice
alternative. You could say, in conclusion, we trust that the 20th meeting will enable consolidation. So yeah, that would work quite well here.
Yeah.
We trust that. Okay.
Well, I would just say, just a slight note, I would go with I trust that, because this is in the
okay, he says termino. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah. There you have it.
There you have it. Well, guys, I hope you found that useful. If you did, if you've learned some new words, if you've learned some new strategies, please do smash the like button. Share it with your Lusophone amigos or your Lusophone speaking amigos. How do you say amigo in Portuguese?
No, you're correct. It's that amigo.
Oh, you say the same. Is it amigo? Amigos. And don't forget to subscribe. Keep subscribing. We've hit. This is the first episode. We're over 1,000. We hit the 1K on, when was it? On Friday. Last Friday. We hit 1K. Thank you very much to everyone who has subscribed for taking us beyond that milestone. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Brandon, any final words from you?
No final words. I just wish everyone well with tackling the speech, which, I think that there's actually really a lot to have learned in the speech. So
it's good. It's got a lot of detail.
It's got a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. Go practice. You've got, as I say, all the links will be down in the description box. Keep following the Interpretation Station on the LinkedIn groups. You never know. One day I might be able to arrange a Interpretation Station Sunday at 6 workshop for Portuguese. Would you guys be interested in that? If I can find persuade one of my colleagues to join me for Portuguese, that'd be good, right? Okay. Well, hopefully I now have to start persuading Brandon to do some more of these episodes for the Portuguese market. We can conquer the Portuguese market, just like Vasco da Gama once did, conquered the Americas. Nothing more to be said other than that. Episode 110 of the Interpretation Station stands adjourned.